Let me ask you a question. Who really feeds the world? The answer, well, it might just surprise you. Today, we're digging into the absolutely fundamental and yet so often invisible role that women play in global agriculture. And you'll see why understanding this is so critical for all of us. I want to start with just one number, 50%. Just let that sink in for a second. 50%. What on earth could that represent in the massive world of farming?
You got it. Half of the entire agricultural workforce in the developing world is made up of women. That scale is just immense, and it really sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about.
And that brings us to the core idea for this explainer. We're going to think of these women as the unseen engine of global food. They're providing this incredible power, but so much of the time, they go completely unrecognized. And look, this isn't just a nice idea or some opinion. The data makes it crystal clear. When you empower women in farming, it's a direct path to feeding more people more securely. So this isn't just about fairness, it's about building a smarter, more effective food system for absolutely everyone. So, what does this actually look like on the ground? How does it work? Let's zoom in a bit and break down the entire journey, from a tiny seed to the food on your table, because there are 3 critical areas where women are just essential. You can see their contributions across these 3 main stages. First, actually producing the food. Second, getting it out to everyone. And finally, shaping how it's actually used and consumed. Okay, so in the production phase, women are right there on the front lines. They are the main hands-on laborers in subsistence farming, doing that incredibly tough work of planting, weeding, and harvesting. And even in the big commercial operations, they're key workers. Plus, they're often the ones managing those home gardens that provide so much crucial nutrition for the family. But their work doesn't stop once the food is grown. Not even close. Women are also central to distribution. They're the face of the local markets, they're the ones managing the storage and preservation that stops food from going to waste, and they make sure it actually gets from the field to the community. And then finally, when we get to consumption, their influence is just enormous. They're often the ones deciding what crops get planted in the first place and what meals show up on the table, which directly shapes the health of their families and their entire communities. The bottom line is their impact is felt across the entire system. Okay, but here's the thing. These roles are not the same everywhere. Not at all. Geography and economic development create 2 completely different realities for women in agriculture. And the best way to get this is to compare subsistence farming, which is super common in developing or periphery countries, with the large-scale commercial farming that you see in developed or core nations. They're like 2 different worlds. Just look at the differences here. In those subsistence economies, women make up about half the labor force, and it's all about manual, hands-on work. But in commercial economies, it's closer to a third, and their roles shift dramatically. As machines take over the manual labor, women move into management and agribusiness. It's a huge shift. But hold on, it's really easy to oversimplify this. Even that term, subsistence farming, covers a massive amount of diversity. The specific type of farming really matters. For instance, if you're in a mixed crop system, women are absolutely central to cultivation. But in a pastoral nomadic society, like the Maasai, traditional gender roles can be way more rigid. The men often own and herd the cattle, while women might be restricted to other tasks, like milking. 2 very different scenarios. And all of this leads us to the central conflict of this whole story. Despite this immense contribution we've just talked about, women face these enormous, often invisible barriers. It really is a story of contribution versus control. Just look at this. In sub-Saharan Africa, women provide somewhere between 60 and 80% of all the labor for food crops. We're showing an average of 70% here, but wow, that is an incredible figure. They are quite literally the backbone of food production in the region. Now, if you want to see the most extreme example of this disparity, let's zoom in on one specific country, the Republic of the Congo. In the Congo, women are responsible for a staggering 75% of the country's entire agricultural output. Let that sink in. 3/4 of all the food comes directly from their work. So, what do they get for it? What is their reward for being the primary food producers for an entire nation? Absolutely nothing. They are legally barred from owning the very land they cultivate. This is the ultimate disconnect between contribution and control.
And sadly, it's a pattern we see in different ways all over the world.
You might be wondering, why the huge difference with developed countries? Well, a lot of it goes back to industrialization. When machines came in and took over the tasks that women traditionally did, their roles in these core countries shifted more towards the home. That's a big historical trend that's really only starting to reverse now. Okay, so let's zoom back out. We've seen the roles, we've seen the geography, and we've seen the barriers. Now for the most important part. Why does fixing this injustice matter to every single one of us? And this brings us right to the crucial takeaway. Empowering women farmers isn't just the right thing to do. It is one of the single most effective strategies we have for increasing food production and achieving global food security. And the key to unlocking all of that potential? It's removing those barriers to land ownership and access to resources. So I'll leave you with this final thought. We already know their contribution is immense, even with the odds totally stacked against them. So just imagine what becomes possible when the hands that feed the world are finally allowed to own a piece of it too. What would that world even look like?